Okay, before I get started, I'm going to do a quick sound check, and after that, I am going to get started with the show. Make sure my voice is being heard over the stream. First, I'm going to do YouTube because I have to, like I usually say, I have to check, make sure the audio is good, which it is, and then I have to put the live stream into the proper playlist, which, just so you guys know, um, I have a specific playlist for live streams. So if you guys want to see these live streams again later on, you can go onto the wonderful world of weirdness and find it in the playlist. I also uh, download these episodes and I put the cut esoteric agenda and weird science onto my other channel that I had before I got involved with the wonderful world of weirdness, which is called um, weird weird science. No, it's called uh, strange stories. Sorry, strange stories. And I believe I do have it on my timeline on YouTube if you guys don't uh, know how to find that. Besides that, I am also on Rumble, where you can check it out there as well if you want to. And I am trying my best on Rumble to put together at least a halfway decent playlist for the content that I'm making. But I'm going to tell you something right now. The playlists on there are insane. Uh, so far, what I'm doing is I'm also editing these videos down to 15-minute segments so that people who don't really want to sit down and listen to a stream for an hour and a half to 3 hours long can go in and watch a 15-minute video if they want to, which don't get me wrong, I know everybody has their opinions about that, but if people just enjoy watching 15-minute videos at a time, then I'll help cater to that. I have no problem with it. So that's the reason why I do that. Just in my experience with doing videos and streaming, I've found that there's a lot of people who are more into watching shorter videos. So I try to make it to where I have 15-minute videos for those people. Um, there's some videos that come up to about an hour and 15 minutes. That's what this one usually is. And then I have other ones that are longer. I go from 3 to 6 hours. So on my channels, you basically get a variety of what you want to watch, just to let everybody know. So I checked the audio on Rumble and it sounds good. I also checked the audio on D Live. Sounds good there. I'm glad that it's actually not causing me problems today. This has been a rare occasion. It's usually always causing me grief on D Live. I don't know why, but it does. It sounds good on Kick. And now I'm checking Twitch. Twitch is good. Now, before I get started, I want everybody to know that in September, I am going to be switching campfire stories over to fireside stories. Now, the last two will be at the beginning of September, and then the first two of fireside stories will be at the end of September. And that's going to be Halloween themed. So far, my buddy Rapid Glitch from Nostalgia Gaming Retro has provided me with a really cool, scary story that is Halloween. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be Halloween oriented, but it's cool. Cool. So that's going to be one of my Halloween oriented, um, scary stories on Fireside Stories. Um, and I want to do a shout out to Rapid and say thank you for that. That was really appreciated. I also want to let everybody know that they can find Rapid Glitch on YouTube at Nostalgia Gaming Retro. It's probably the coolest retro gaming channel in the universe. And if you're not cool, then you're a fool. The only person that I know of who is even close to as good with retro games is old John, who's uh, the founder of the wonderful World of Weirdness. But other than that, if you want to check out cool retro games, go check out Nostalgia Gaming Retro. Um, Now, with that being said, I am going to offer to everybody the same offer that I've been making on Teams as well as Discord. If you guys have any scary story ideas, or if you have a scary story of your own that you would like for me to read out loud on Fireside, feel free to send them to me or contact me on Discord or Teams. You can find me on Teams at Live with Roger Hansen. Just go in there, type Live with Roger Hansen in, and you'll find me. You can also find me at on Discord at the Wonderful World of Weirdness. We've had that Discord channel for quite a long time now, and everybody's more than welcome to show up and be a part of that if they want. You can actually stay and share your stories and give feedback and talk to one another on there. Hopefully, I believe Austin Todd says him and his mom Summer Todd's going to pull together some scary stories as well, which is going to be pretty cool. So we have a lot of things going on this month. I've been working on transferring content from YouTube over to Rumble. I've actually been doing quite a good job of it. I've got everything for Rumble scheduled out. There, it's not going to be every channel that gets one video a day, but all the channels are going to get at least one of the channels that I have on there is going to get a video once a day. So one day it could be the Praetorian, one day it could be the Wonderful World of Weirdness, and one day it could be Earth, which I do have a channel called Earth, but there will be one scheduled post that's released on one of my channels. Okay, so I have that scheduled all the way up until the end of June. Now on YouTube, when it comes to YouTube on the Wonderful World of Weirdness, I have everything scheduled up to October, and that is looking pretty promising, to be honest with you. I actually am surprised how much we have going on there. So I'm 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 glad that we've made it to the end of August, because I have officially been able to post one video on the Wonderful World of Weirdness every day on YouTube for the last year. Now I'm going to try to make one video every day go for a year and a half, which means instead of it ending in August, it's going to go all the way to the end of December. in the 1st of January. Besides that, I have been working on making sure that I have at least 3 live streams, hopefully 4 a week, on on the wonderful world of weirdness as well, which I've been able to pull off since January. It's August, and that's 8 months that I've been able to do that. I've got 4 months to go, so I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed and hope that I can pull this off. We have been doing quite a bit, basically, to get this going. So, um, with that being said, I hope that everybody enjoys this episode of The Cut. I'll be your host, Roger Hanson. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get on with the readings. Now, these readings are readings that aren't like cut out of history or anything. Well, not all of them, not in the way that I usually say it, but what they are topics that I wanted to share, but I never had an opportunity to share them because they really didn't fit into the to categories. You know what I'm saying? And I've had them for quite a long time, so this gave me an opportunity to kind of add them in because I'm one of those guys who believes there's a lot more to weird. You know what I mean? Like whenever people think of weird stuff in the world, they always think of the paranormal. Like it's not weird if it's not you don't talk about a ghost or a UFO or telepathy or things of that nature, or psychic phenomenon. But for me, I feel that the world of weirdness is all things that are weird. You know what I mean? Not just things that are paranormal and strange and stuff like that, but everything. So I try to come up with things that are not necessarily paranormal or any of that nature, but just weird too. You know what I mean? I think that's important to do, and that's kind of what I do with this stuff. So um, that's why I enjoy doing the cut because it gave me a chance to kind of open up and share some of these things that are weird, but not in the paranormal or psychic kind of way. So with that, I'm going to start my readings, and I hope you guys enjoy. The Canal Saint Martin is one of the most fascinating waterways in Paris, combining history, engineering, and cultural life into a single ribbon of water that has flowed through the city for centuries. It is more than a functional canal, more than an aesthetic feature of the landscape, and more than a tourist attraction. The story of this canal stretches back to the early 19th century when it was conceived as a vital link for commerce, sanitation, and urban planning. Over time, it has evolved, adapting to the changing needs of the city, and it has become both a relic of industrial Paris and a living artery of urban life. Its history reflects the ambition of rulers, the labor of engineers and workers, and the shifting relationship between the people of Paris and the waterways that thread through their city. The construction of the Canal Saint Martin began in the first decades of the 19th century, during the reign of Napoleon I. Napoleon recognized that Paris was in desperate need of a better water supply. The growing population suffered from poor access to clean water, and diseases spread easily through the contaminated wells and inadequate sanitation systems. At the same time, the city required an efficient means of transporting goods, such as grain, building materials, and firewood, which were essential to sustaining its expanding urban life. The solution was the creation of a network of canals that would connect the river Ourcq, or Arcs, Ourcq, for those who want to check that out, in the northeast to the river Seine, providing both water and navigation. Out of this vision was born the Canal Saint Martin, which would stretch through the eastern side of Paris and eventually become a vital part of the Canal de One, or de L or Q system. The construction project was monumental for its time. Engineers and laborers had to dig through dense soil, design locks to control water levels, and construct aqueducts and bridges that would allow the canal to weave its way through the city while accommodating roads, pedestrians, and later railways. The final canal measured over 4 kilometers in length and included 9 locks to manage the descent of the water as it made its way toward the Seine, which is spelled Seine. 2 swing bridges and several arched bridges were built so that the streets could cross the waterway without disrupting traffic on either side. Much of this infrastructure remains in place today, still functioning more than 2 centuries later, a testament to the ingenuity of the engineers of that time. The Canal Saint Martin soon became an indispensable feature of Parisian life. Barges laden with goods moved along its waters, supplying markets with grain, food, and essential products. The canal also served as a vital source of drinking water and helped to maintain the city's growing sanitation needs. In its early decades, the canal was not yet the romantic and picturesque sight that many people know today. Instead, it was an industrious and practical channel, alive with the sound of workers, animals, carts, and boats. It was a working waterway at the heart of the city. As the 19th century progressed, the canal began to take on new cultural and social dimensions. The neighborhoods along its bank grew into lively quarters, home to workers, artisans, and shopkeepers. Warehouses and factories lined its edges, making it an industrial corridor. Yet at the same time, residents began to recognize the beauty of the canal. The tree-lined banks, the bridges, and the gently flowing water created a space of calm amid the noise of the city. Writers and artists began to depict the canal in their works, and by the early 20th century, it had become a beloved part of the Parisian landscape. The 20th century, however, brought challenges to the Canal Saint Martin. With the rise of modern roads, trucks, and railways, the importance of waterways for for transport declined. Barges still moved along the canal, but their numbers decreased significantly as industries shifted towards faster and more flexible means of moving goods. The neighborhoods along the canal also went through periods of decline, with factories closing and unemployment rising. At times, the canal was seen as a relic of a bygone era, a once essential feature that no longer fit into the pace of the modern metropolis. By the middle of the 20th century, the Canal Saint Martin had developed a reputation for being neglected and even unsanitary. Debris collected in its waters, and pollution became a serious concern. The once vital artery was at risk of becoming little more than a stagnant, forgotten waterway. Yet this was not the end of the story. Instead, the canal underwent a transformation that would restore its beauty and importance to the people of Paris. One of the most significant moments in the modern history of the canal, Saint Martin, came with the cleaning projects that were implemented over the last 50 years. Every few decades, the canal must be drained to clear it of debris, repair its infrastructure, and restore the health of its waters. This process is both a practical necessity and a remarkable event that captures the imagination of Parisians and visitors alike. When the canal is drained, its stone bed is revealed, and workers set about removing everything from bicycles and old furniture to shopping carts, bottles, and unexpected curiosities that have been thrown or dropped into the water over the years. In the 1970s, one of the earliest large-scale cleaning operations of the modern era took place. The city authorities recognized that decades of industrial and household waste had accumulated in the canal, and they organized a massive effort to remove it. Tons of debris were hauled out, restoring the canal to a healthier state and making it once again a pleasant feature for residents. This effort was repeated in later decades, each time revealing a strange assortment of items that had sunk beneath the surface, from safes to traffic signs, and sometimes even historical relics that spoke to the long life of the canal. A particularly notable cleaning project occurred in the year 2001, when the canal was drained and restored to much public attention. This operation revealed nearly 40 tons of objects ranging from bicycles and shopping carts to appliances, wallets, and even unexpected remnants of older eras. The event fascinated Parisians who flocked to the canal's edge to witness the spectacle of its empty bed and to marvel at the hidden life of their city's waterway. For many, it was a reminder of the canal's enduring presence and the need to respect and preserve it. Another major cleaning effort took place in the year 2016, when the canal was again drained and cleared. The city authorities removed more than 40 tons of debris, including countless bicycles, metal barriers, suitcases, and other discarded items. Once more, The operation drew large crowds as people gathered to watch the surreal sight of a dry canal stretching through their neighborhoods. Environmental groups used the occasion to raise awareness about urban pollution and the importance of treating public spaces with care. The cleaning not only improved the water quality, but also reinforced the canal's role as a shared cultural treasure. Canal St. Martin, they connect the modern city to sorry. These cleaning projects have become part of the living tradition of the Canal St. Martin. They connect the modern city to its past, reminding Parisians that this waterway has been flowing through their lives for 2 centuries, and that its preservation requires collective responsibility. Each time the canal is drained, it is not only a technical operation, but also a symbolic renewal, a moment when the city reclaims its connection to water, history, and community. In recent decades, the Canal St. Martin has undergone a broader revival that extends beyond the cleaning projects. The neighborhoods along its banks have been revitalized, with old warehouses transformed into trendy cafes, restaurants, and shops. Artists and museums or Artists and musicians have made the area a hub of creativity, and the canal itself has become a gathering place for residents and tourists alike. On warm evenings, crowds gather along the quays to picnic, talk, and enjoy the tranquil sight of the water reflecting the trees and bridges. The canal has been featured in films, literature, and photography, becoming one of the most iconic and romanticized parts of Paris. The canal's locks and bridges remain a source of fascination. Watching a barge pass through the locks as the water levels rise or fall and the massive gates open and close is a reminder of the enduring ingenuity of 19th century engineering. The iron footbridges arching gracefully over the water invite strollers to pause and gaze at the reflections below. At night, the streetlights cast shimmering patterns on the canal's surface, creating an atmosphere that is both dreamlike and distinctively Parisian. It is little wonder that the Canal St. Martin has inspired so many works of art and has become a symbol of the city's blend of history, industry, and romance. The Canal St. Martin is not only a cultural landmark, but also an environmental and urban resource. It continues to play a role in regulating the water system in Paris, linking the river Ourcq to the Seine, and helping to manage the city's supply. In times of drought or heat waves, the canal contributes to cooling the city and providing much needed water. The authorities have worked in recent years to balance the canal's heritage with modern needs, ensuring that it remains both a living waterway and a preserved monument. The significance of the canal lies in its ability to embody the layers of Parisian history. It tells the story of Napoleon's ambitions, of 19th century engineering, of industrial growth and decline, of neglect and revival, and of the ongoing relationship between a city and its water. Okay, I had to do a quick cough before I did anything. The Secretorum, often translated as the Secret of Secrets, is one of the most fascinating and influential texts of the medieval world. Although attributed to Aristotle, the great Greek philosopher of the 4th century before the Common Era, the work is not genuinely his. Instead, it is a compilation of wisdom, pseudoscience, and mystical lore that traveled through cultures, languages, and centuries before finding its way into the libraries and imaginations of medieval Europe. More than a simple book, it became a cultural phenomenon, blending philosophy, politics, medicine, astrology, alchemy, and secret teachings into a guide that was said to be written by Alexander the Great, or written for Alexander the Great. Whether taken as literal instructions or metaphorical wisdom, it shaped the way rulers and thinkers understood knowledge, power, and the mysteries of the world. The roots of this mysterious work reach back to antiquity. In the ancient world, the names Aristotle and Alexander carried unparalleled authority. Aristotle was the philosopher of logic, science, and ethics, whose writings came to define entire fields of inquiry. Alexander, his most famous pupil, conquered lands from Greece to India, leaving behind a legacy of empire and legend. It was therefore fitting for later authors to imagine that Aristotle had written a secret manual of knowledge for Alexander, offering him guidance not only in governance but also in understanding the hidden forces of nature and the cosmos. To attribute a work to this legendary teacher and his world-conquering student gave it an aura of credibility and authority. The earliest versions of what would become the Secretorum appeared in the Arabic world under the title Kitab Sur al-Asrar, which means the Book of the Secrets of Secrets. Scholars believe that it was composed between the 9th and the 10th century of the Common Era, drawing upon earlier Greek philosophical works, Persian wisdom traditions, and Islamic scientific writings. The Arabic scholars were great collectors of translators of knowledge, preserving and expanding upon the legacy of Greek thought, while also blending it with their own advances in medicine, astrology, mathematics, and philosophy. In this intellectual environment, the text was born as a wide-ranging compendium of advice and instruction, couched in the form of letters from Aristotle to Alexander. When the text was later translated into Latin in the 12th and 13th century, it entered the European intellectual world with great force. The most influential translation was produced by Philip of Tripoli around the year 1230. From that point onward, the Secretum Secretorum became one of the most widely read and copied works of the Middle Ages. Kings, clerics, and scholars alike pored over its pages, convinced that it had contained the hidden wisdom of antiquity. It functioned not only as a mirror for princes, offering rulers advice on how to govern, but also as a manual of secret sciences for from the regulation of the body's humors to the interpretation of the stars. The contents of the Secretum Secretorum are extraordinarily diverse, reflecting the many traditions it drew upon. At its core, it serves as a political and moral guidebook. Aristotle, speaking to Alexander, advises him on how to rule his empire with justice and moderation. He warns against the dangers of pride, greed, and tyranny, urging the ruler to cultivate virtues such as courage, temperance, and wisdom. The work reflects a long tradition of didactic literature in which rulers were counseled to balance power with morality, reminding them that authority without virtue leads to ruin. In this sense, the text resembles other medieval mirrors for princes, yet its association with Aristotle and Alexander gave it unparalleled prestige. Beyond politics, however, the Secretum Secretorum delves into the realm of science and pseudoscience. A large portion of the work concerns medicine and health, offering advice on diet, hygiene, and the maintenance of the bodily balance. It draws heavily on the ancient theory of the four humors, teaching that human health depends on the proper balance of blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. To preserve this balance, the text recommends specific foods, exercises, and remedies, essentially serving as a medieval handbook for a ruler who needed to maintain strength and vitality to lead. Astrology occupies another major place in the text. The Secretum Secretorum asserts that the stars and planets influence human affairs and that a wise ruler should pay attention to celestial moments before making decisions. For example, it suggests that certain times are more favorable than others when waging war, negotiating treaties, or holding ceremonies, depending on the alignment of the heavens. In the medieval imagination, astrology was not merely superstition, but an integral part of science, seen as a way of reading the divine order inscribed in the cosmos. The idea that Alexander himself consulted such knowledge through the guidance of Aristotle only reinforced its authority. Alchemy and occult knowledge also seep into the text. Some versions contain instructions on the preparation of elixirs or the pursuit of substances that could transmute metals, echoing the fascination with alchemical transformation that would later flourish in Europe. Physiognomy, the study of reading character from physical appearance, also appears in the text, teaching that the outward features of a person could reveal inner truths about their temperament or intentions. These sections, mixing practical advice with mystical speculation, gave the work its reputation as a book of hidden knowledge, a compendium of truths not meant for ordinary people, but for rulers and philosophers. The title Secret of Secrets itself reflects this aura of mystery. It suggests that within the text lay the most profound truths of the universe, reserved only for those in power or those wise enough to understand. Readers in the Middle Ages often approached it not as a single coherent treatise, but as a treasury of wisdom, gathering together the best of ancient and exotic knowledge. In this way, the book mirrored the medieval belief that wisdom came from collecting and harmonizing diverse traditions from Greek, Persia, India, and the Islamic world. The influence of the Secretum Secretorum on medieval Europe was immense. It circulated in countless manuscripts, and was translated into many vernacular languages, including French, English, and Spanish, making it accessible not only to scholars but also to courtiers and rulers who did not read Latin. It shaped the genre of princely advice literature, inspiring other texts, and sought to blend ethnical guidance with. It shaped the genre of princely advice literature, inspiring other texts that sought to blend ethical guidance with practical governance. The great scholar Roger Bacon admired the text, believing it to contain genuine Aristotelian wisdom. He cited it as an authority on natural philosophy, medicine, and ethics, demonstrating the respect it commanded even among learned thinkers. At the time, not everyone accepted the text uncritically. Some scholars doubted its authenticity, noting the odd mixture of philosophy with astrology and occult science. Over time, especially during the Renaissance, when humanist scholars began to study Greek texts more directly, the Secretum Secretorum was recognized as a spurious work. Its credibility as an Aristotelian document diminished, but its cultural impact remained. Even as it lost scholarly authority, the text retained its mystique. For later readers, it came to represent the very spirit of the Middle Ages, an age when philosophy, science, and magic were not sharply divided but intertwined, It illustrated the medieval quest to gather all knowledge into a single system where the wisdom of the ancients could coexist with religious belief and esoteric speculation. The image of Aristotle writing a secret manual for Alexander symbolized the ideal union of wisdom and power, philosophy and action, knowledge and empire. Modern scholars study the Secretorum not for its scientific accuracy, but for what it reveals about medieval culture. It is a window into the transmission of knowledge across civilizations, showing how Greek thought traveled into the Arabic world, was reshaped by Islamic scholars, and then entered Latin Europe, where it continued to evolve. It demonstrates the blending of practical and mystical traditions, reflecting the medieval conviction that ruling a kingdom required not only political acumen, but also insight into the hidden forces of nature and the cosmos. I didn't mute out that time, I just went ahead and coughed. St. George is one of the most celebrated and enduring figures of Christian hagiography, known for his courage, devotion, and legendary battle against the dragon. Revered in both Eastern and Western traditions, he has inspired generations through tales of valor, piety, and unwavering faith. Though the details of his life are shrouded in myth and legend, his story has been preserved in countless writings, artworks, and oral traditions across Europe, the Middle East, and beyond. Saint George occupies a unique place as both a historical figure and a symbol, blending historical kernels with heroic narrative to create a legacy that has transcended centuries. The historical Saint Germain is believed to have lived during the 3rd century in the region of Cappadocia in what is now modern Turkey. He was a Roman soldier who embraced the Christian faith during a time when Christians faced persecution under imperial authority. George's commitment to his beliefs reportedly brought him into conflict with the Roman authorities, and according to tradition, he was martyred for refusing to renounce his faith. His courage in the face of persecution became a model for Christian virtue, establishing him as a symbol of steadfast devotion and moral strength. Over time, the historical facts of his life merged with folklore and legend, producing the iconic stories for which he is best known. Among the most famous is the tale of Saint George and the Dragon. In this narrative, a town is terrorized by a fearsome dragon that demands tribute in the form of livestock and eventually human sacrifices. The townspeople are powerless, offering the life of the king's daughter to appease the beast. St. George arrives, armed with faith, courage, and skill, and confronts the dragon. Through a combination of strategy, bravery, and divine assistance, he slays the dragon, rescuing the princess and restoring peace to the land. The story has been interpreted symbolically as a triumph of good over evil, faith over fear, and courage over tyranny. St. George's legend became widely popular in the medieval period when tales of knights and heroic warriors captivated European imagination. His figure was incorporated into the chivalry ideas that guided the behavior of knights, emphasizing qualities such as bravery, honor, and service to the weak. In this context, the dragon represents not only a literal threat, but also the moral and spiritual challenges that a knight must overcome. Paintings, sculptures, illuminated manuscripts, and tapestries often depicted the dramatic encounter between St. George and the dragon, reinforcing the ideas of heroism and virtue for audiences throughout Europe. Beyond legend, Saint Germain has also played an important role as a cultural and national symbol. In England, he became the patron saint during the medieval period, associated with valor, protection, and military prowess. His emblem, a red cross on a white background, became a recognizable symbol of English identity and was later incorporated into the Union Jack. St. George is also venerated in other countries, including Georgia, Portugal, and several Eastern Orthodox nations, where his life and deeds are celebrated with feast days, religious ceremonies, and festivals. In each cultural context, the figure of Saint George serves as both a spiritual exemplar and a unifying symbol, embodying the virtues that communities wish to honor and uphold. The story of Saint George also intersects with broader historical and social developments. During the Crusades, he was evoked as a protector of warriors and as a symbol of divine assistance in battle. His image was painted on shields, banners, and church walls, providing inspiration and a sense of moral authority to those engaged in warfare. In times of plague, famine, or social unrest, communities turned to St. George as a source of hope and protection, believing that his courage and faith could intercede in moments of crisis. His enduring popularity reflects not only the appeal of his legendary deeds, but also the human desire for figures who embody ideals of courage, justice, and spiritual integrity. In addition to his martial and heroic associations, St. George is also linked to themes of personal transformation and moral fortitude. The legend of the dragon can be read as a metaphor for inner struggles, the conquering of fear, and the pursuit of virtue in the face of adversity. Stories of his life emphasize qualities such as patience, resilience, and steadfastness, demonstrating that true heroism is not solely the ability to wield a sword, but also the capacity to act with conscience, faith, and moral clarity. This symbolic dimension of St. George or St. George's legend has allowed it to remain relevant across centuries and cultures, resonating with audiences long after the historical events had faded from memory. Over time, St. George's influence extended beyond Europe. In the Eastern Orthodox tradition, he is venerated as a protector of cities, soldiers, and the faithful. Churches dedicated to him can be found throughout the Mediterranean and Middle East, often located in places of strategic or spiritual importance. Pilgrimages to sites associated with St. George became popular, allowing believers to connect with his legacy and seek his intercession. A combination of historical martyrdom and legendary heroism created a figure who could inspire devotion, admiration, and emulation in countless ways. St. George's legend also contributed to literature, inspiring epic poems, romances, and dramatic works throughout the medieval and early modern periods. Writers explored his life and deeds, embellishing the narrative with moral lessons, spiritual insights, and imaginative embellishments. Artists of every medium, from manuscript illuminators to sculptors and painters, depicted him in vivid scenes of battle and triumph. The enduring vision and literary representations of St. George helped to reinforce his status as both a historical saint and a cultural icon. Even in contemporary times, St. George continues to hold symbolic power. His image appears in national flags, military insignia, and civic emblems. While his story is recounted in books, films, and educational materials. Modern interpretations often focus on the symbolic dimensions of his legend, viewing the dragon as a metaphor for social, moral, or personal challenges, and St. George as a model for confronting adversity with courage, ethics, and faith. The universality of his story combined heroism, moral instruction, and divine assistance, and has ensured its continued relevance across generations and cultures. St. George's feast day is celebrated on the 23rd of April in many Christian traditions. This day is marked by religious services, processions, and cultural celebrations, commemorating both his martyrdom and his legendary deeds. In some regions, the day is also associated with the arrival of spring, renewal, and hope, linking the saint's symbolic victory over evil with broader themes of rebirth and regeneration. Communities continue to honor St. George as a protector, a moral exemplar, and a symbol of bravery in the face of daunting challenges. So yeah, that's it. I wanted to definitely get the story of Saint George. That was one thing that I definitely have held on to for quite a few years, and it's very, very significant in a lot of things. It's just like I said at the beginning, it's very hard to classify St. George into some of the topics that I've gone over. You know what I mean? It's not very easy to do that. So, and yeah, Sean Grimm says he just got my email. Are you live? And I don't understand how you got my email. Um, so I do appreciate you showing up in chat and making a comment in the chat section, though. Um, if you want to contact me, respond to that email, and I will get back to you so that we can talk. I don't know for sure exactly who you are, Sean Grimm. So contact me through the email or go on Teams and contact me through Live with Roger Hansen. You can also find the Wonderful World of Weirdness on Discord as the Wonderful World of Weirdness. Check me out there as well. Besides that, I am on minds.com as Roger_Hansen, and I am at X as Roger Hansen at ROGLOL1973. Raj LOL 1973. So you can hook up with me there. Other than that, I am streaming on Rumble. I'm also streaming on YouTube, both at the Wonderful World of Weirdness. I am also streaming on Twitch at Infamous 1969 if you guys want to watch on that platform. Now on Twitch, I want to remind everybody that I do not keep copies of the stream. After the stream is done, it is gone. And I do that for a reason, because now they're watching the amount of storage that you have in the videos that you keep on there. So I find that that's pretty tedious, because that means I have to go through and delete videos once that amount has reached its limit. And rather than doing that, I just would rather just do a live stream, and after it's done, and it's good to go. Besides, I do want to point out as well that that is one feature that Twitch has that I haven't found with any of the other platforms, and I like that, especially now with a lot of the changes that have gone on with a lot of these platforms when it comes to excessive censorship. You know what I mean? I really do find it kind of enjoyable that I can do a live stream on there and it's gone, and I don't get hit with any kind of infringements or anything of that nature. So it's actually a pretty good thing. So you can find me on there while I'm streaming at Infamous 1969 if you guys want to check me out. Now I am also on Kick, and you can find me at Kick as Roger_Hansen. I'm also Roger_Hansen on DLive, so you can find me at Kick and DLive as well. I do have channels on Odyssey and BitChute, but I have been active on them for a while. So, and plus, I also should mention that even though I am on X and Minds, I don't go on there all the time. So, just letting you know. If you go on there, it could take me a while to respond. So, um, Sean, hit me up in email and we can talk. I'm hoping that it's just somebody spamming me or something. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because I really have no clue who you're talking about. Okay, so with that being said, I can say now that we are at an hour and 5 minutes, and I have finished my readings. I went through the channels to check for comments, and there was only that one, which is great. So, with that, all I have to say is if you like the show, please like, subscribe, share, make comments down in the comment section, guys. Give your feedback, tell your story, just say hi. It doesn't matter. Just say something, so that we can have a conversation. You don't know how important that is to content creators. They really do enjoy getting feedback or just having conversations with people in the comment section after the stream is done, you know, and getting to know people. That's the whole reason why people do these streams, is to reach out and connect with other people. So remember that. If you don't even want to comment in my comment section, remember that when you do go to people's streams that you enjoy and you like hearing the stuff they have to say, take time to go down there and make a comment and tell them how much you appreciate and enjoyed their streams. With that being said, man, I'm done. I am literally done. I'm going to end this stream. I hope you guys have a good day, good evening, good morning, whichever time of the day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it, and I will talk to you later.